So before we can talk about stem cell therapy, we have to understand what a stem cell is. For starters, when we define a stem cell, it really only has two parameters. It can self-replicate and it can become different tissue. That's important to know because that definition satisfies a large array of different types of cells. And when we think about potential treatment options, we want to select a cell that can actually transform into the tissue you're trying to regenerate. In the orthopedic space, this is oftentimes things like bone, cartilage, tendons, muscle, and that comes from a specific cell line called the mesenchymal stem cell line. The history of stem cell therapy is riddled with controversy as well because of the source of different types of stem cells. And when stem cell therapy was initially being investigated, it was predominantly around embryonic stem cells. Now, of course, we don't use embryonic tissue for any stem cell therapies or even any research around stem cell therapies because of the ethical side of that. We've moved on to a different cell lineage, which is the mesenchymal stem cell. The space of orthopedics has really emerged as the primary source of stem cell therapy because of its ability to capture this specific type of mesenchymal stem cell, which has three primary sources. That could be umbilical cord tissue, adipose tissue or fat, or bone marrow tissue. As we think about stem cell therapy, we also have to consider what they are doing. We want to regenerate tissues that have become degenerative or have become dysfunctional such that we can pull that tissue back to an earlier phase, so-called reversing aging or reversing injury, and we can actually heal that tissue. That is the pillar, and we're making great progress to getting there, but we still have a little ways to go. The challenge here is that it is very difficult to prove that stem cells are regenerating tissue. It would require a tissue sample, so that would mean a patient would have to go in, have a tissue sample before treatment, get treated, and then some window of time later, 6 months, 12 months, have a researcher go in and get that tissue back out. That is not necessarily a favorable direction to go because you're going to create trauma and induce injury in that process. So the second best thing that you can do is do an image. That would require something along the lines of an ultrasound or an MRI where you can see tissue types and see how they change over time. Now that would provide information around whether or not that tissue has gotten thicker, but ultimately it doesn't answer the question, was it the stem cell that engrafted into that tissue that ultimately led to that regeneration? Or is it the new hypothesis, which is it's the signaling of that stem cell that is supporting your body's own capacity to regenerate? More recent literature is supporting the latter. Stem cells are not engrafting into tissue, but otherwise sending signaling cells, again, utilizing your body's own capacity to regenerate, which is very powerful. So that was your brief introduction to what stem cells are and what stem cells are doing. If you have any questions, put them in the comments.